This episode is brought to you by the RVA Podcast Network. Find more information at rvapodcast.org.
It's a new year, so you know what that means. That means a new season. It's season 4. Intro a little revamped. Microphone a little revamped. Branding a little revamped. We are now officially the Past BT. So welcome all Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and all podcast platforms. Here you're going to get a flavor of sports, music, tech, video games. Once in a while, we'll get an Ass of the Week and a new part that's going to be coming in. It's not mentioned on the season 3. What we do was called Pass the Message. So definitely you want to tune in and get some good content on the Pass with your host BT. What is up? What is going on? Episode 277 of The Pass is here. I am your host, BT. I am going to do something because I wanted to do it last episode and I forgot to. So it's something that I'm going to be starting. It's kind of a way to value or learn the importance of quiet time. So I'm going to do a brief moment of silence and I'll explain why in a moment. So the reason for the moment of silence, and, I know it's going to be like, well, why you had this weird block of silence in the show, is the last time I recorded, it was like a plethora of things all occurred at one time. And I'll kind of give you that story and also bring you to the present. I personally know how anyone, when going through having friends around or having people around and you're close to them. And when you get information or you get news of someone passing, it blows your mind. So I did that as I'm doing this as a way of paying it forward because the person, it was on February 23rd. And it was an odd turn of events for me only because like literally that Saturday I had just recorded my podcast. So I was like, okay, not a bad way to end the week. Not too rough, not too extreme. And kind of just going into that day, the following day, I'm, going to try to study and I get this news and I was just kind of taken back. So because it was on the 23rd, I decided to give a 23-second moment of silence for my friend. I'm not going to, out of respect, just not going to put any names or personal biz out there, but I just wanted to kind of get that off of the table before we get started. That being said, it is episode 277. And as you all know, I took this out of the show before, but I've decided to bring it back. And that is our number meaning or the episode number meaning. If you have been continuously seeing the number 277, do not be afraid. This is a message from your guardian birth angels letting you know that you are not alone. Angel number 277 is a sign of selflessness. The angels are warning you that if you do not begin to have selfless attitude, this will have you losing most of the valuables you possess in this life. The angel numbers are sending you a message encouraging you to give more and start taking less for yourself. Provide for your family and friends who do not have. Selflessness is an act of God, and the angel number 277 is saying that when you are selfless, you are closer to God. Remember, God has blessed you not so you may be mean, but so you may give just as God has given to you. Angel number 277 meaning also refers to faith. You may be in a situation where your spouse has not been providing as much as he or she used to, Maybe the situation has changed for him or her and you are beginning to panic, and in return, your faith with them has withered. You can relate to a different element from what your sun sign or zodiac sign element is. Take this in-depth 4 elements, and I wasn't supposed to read that. But anyway, angel number 277 is a sign for you to have faith in your spouse. The situation he or she is in is a test of the love for your spouse. Angel number 2 is a sign that your belief needs to be stronger than it ever has been. People who do not trust themselves are associated with angel number 277. This is a sign for you to begin having more confidence in yourself. Confidence can only be achieved with trust. Trust yourself enough to forgive yourself even when you make a mistake. Angel number 77 is a message for you to not live life with limitations, but to trust all the steps you are making will make you a better person in the future. The number is an acknowledgement of the hard work and effort you have encountered to give yourself and family a good future. The angels are assuring you and saying that with consistency and belief in yourself, your hard work will begin to pay off. Hold on and continue trusting and believing in yourself at all times. I will admit, and this is probably just a coincidence of life being where it is, confidence is one of my biggest battles, and I've learned that more and more, especially with recording and getting into podcasting like I have. So I've been able to luckily be thankful in building up the confidence to do a lot of what I've done with this, because at first it was something that I was just kind of messing around and, okay, I'm going to see if I can do these shows and keep up. But now it's not really that I'm a source of podcasting, but I've also learned a lot from what I've done wrong in branding and podcasting and helping others to do better with their platform when they get the ball rolling. So that's kind of been my takeaway, at least in doing this the way I have, as well as just working on being a better person. Because I really have added that, that's something I added into one of my affirmations, which I read on the show when I did my year and decade in review back in December, was, to learn how to be more selfless and to not be as selfish. And I've, to give an update before we go into our stories, I have gone ahead and I revised my affirmations, and they're definitely night and day. I was given kind of not a tongue lashing, but kind of a reality to put a better spin or a better energy into what I'm looking to grow and build on towards my future. So you got to speak the right things in order to get the right things. And that's what I was kind of given the life lesson about, which I needed it and I don't mind it, nor do I have any regrets from it. So we have just done the NFL has done their infamous combine and breakdown of the season, not the season, but the preparation of going into this 2020 NFL draft, which is, by the way, in April. I believe it is the third week of April. It starts on that. They do like the Thursday night special. And then you have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which is mainly just players getting picked, and they talk about players as accordingly. The quarterback I have a couple guys that they did bring up as big names. The biggest name that they talked about quarterback wise was Justin Herbert, who looked pretty good as far as his throwing. He had he ran a sub 4.7 40-yard dash. He handled himself well with fielding the questions. And they said that he's not Joe Burrow or Tua Tagovailoa, but those who had lost confidence in his stock should have gained it back Thursday. So there's a chance he may become a lottery pick in this upcoming draft, which, if you really look at it this year, teams are going to be drafting accordingly, but also it's going to be how the free agency market is handled in the NFL. As far as running backs go, and they did say an honorable mention was Jalen Hurts from Oklahoma. So it could be a trifecta of Oklahoma quarterbacks making an impact. If I was taking a blind stab in the dark, it won't be 3 for 3 where Hurts goes number 1, but Hurts is a big name that has been talked about from this upcoming draft. For running backs, you have Jonathan Taylor of Wisconsin and Cam Akers of Florida State. A couple of honorable mentions were Clyde Edwards-Helaire from LSU, A.J. Dillon, Zach Moss, and DeAndre Swift. Um, they and I'm gonna say this because I feel like it needs to be said. We have gotten so hung up on like the metrics of the combine. It's about how good is the player. We don't hear about it. I think this might be one of the first years in a while we didn't hear anybody's exposure story about the Wonder League test. But don't be surprised if those stories come up in a couple in the upcoming weeks. And as a whole, I'm gonna be intrigued by this draft. I know Carolina. I believe we have the 7th pick in the draft. The big story too is what is Washington going to do? Are they going to draft another quarterback despite having Dwayne Haskins and Ron Rivera being there as a new head coach? The consensus and the presentation gives itself as Joe Burrow being the number one guy for Cincinnati, which then leaves where does AJ, where does Andy Dalton go? And among other things, there's going to be a lot that's going to be talked about. The biggest story that we've heard about in the NFL is, where is Brady going? Is Brady going to stay? I've had people say this, and I'm kind of on the same plane about it. I think Brady's staying in New England. Like, New England is kind of all he knows. If he were to play somewhere else, it wouldn't surprise me, but it's going to be surprising for the sake of the content or the observation that could actually happen. So, like I said, then they go over the wide receivers, the tight ends, the left tackles, left guards, centers, all of the other offensive and defensive positions as to who were the bigger names that stood out from this, from the NFL combine. I don't know what I'm gonna call it, NBA combine. And I'm gonna be honest, even as an NBA fan, I haven't watched the NBA combine in years because it's with the combine, and this is in both sports. You don't have as many big names go to this, participate in it, because they already know they're going to be a high pick anyway. So if they're participating, they're just going to kind of show you, hey, I can play. Or I know with Burrow, he's gonna do a pro day workout. Tagovailoa, he went to Alabama, so you don't even have to ask. He's gonna do a pro day workout as well. And that's kind of gonna be the basis of it. But I know the diamonds in the rough that you find from the draft that are rarely talked about, in my opinion, would have to be the wide receivers, because a wide receiver can be a no-name one year, or in their rookie year they can have a breakout year, may not become rookie of the year, but they are in that conversation of, hey, this is somebody that we're going to be talking about for years to come, like a Tyreek Hill, Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, I don't think Hopkins has been in the league 5 years, but his stats present themselves as, hey, I'm here to play. And I didn't talk about this on the show, but I'm going to bring it up. It's going to be interesting because I'm looking forward to seeing Larry Fitzgerald play his 18th season. And that just kind of blew my mind, because I was like, I remember when he first got drafted. And I mean, he still plays like he just got in the league like a couple years ago. So we'll, be looking forward to his play along with the other players in the NFL. I promised I was going to talk about this, and this is going to shock a lot of people. Normally, I'm always like basketball heavy with the podcast, but this week there really hasn't been any. Before I get into this story about the XFL, I have been watching basketball, but basketball hasn't really been as riveting as you would normally expect it to be, only because there are a lot of players that are, teams right now trying to solidify positions and seeds. So there's not really any big stories or big news that have broke in the NFL. I mean, in the NBA. Mainly everybody's just trying to fight for a playoff seed or locking into a solid high-end playoff seed. Only updates I can give right now is the Lakers just clinched their playoff berth by beating Milwaukee yesterday. And Milwaukee I think they clinched their playoff berth before the All-Star break, if I remember correctly. And obviously the big story also was Steph Curry came back. He played his first game. He had 23 points. He was on a bit of a minutes restriction, but you can tell he still has his moves and his gameplay. And someone said something to me yesterday, and not someone, but my friend Mark brought this to my attention, and I always forget about this. It's got to be adjusted or really taken out of our vocabulary of saying that a player is or isn't athletic. everybody in the NBA is athletic. If they weren't, they wouldn't be NBA players. It's the talent level and it's the skill set that varies in what players play what roles and what teams. Prime example is Lonzo was in LA and really didn't shine like you expected him to, which was understandable. But when he got to New Orleans, it kind of gave him a show out, as well as, of all things, everyone talked about his weird, flick based jumper or whatever you want to term it as. And now it's like he's actually comfortable with shooting the ball. It was a confidence factor. I mean, that's something that I noticed even with Markelle Fultz. Philly, I don't know if they couldn't do it right, but it looked like he got to Orlando and it all changed. So just little stuff like that you notice and pick up on as seasons or as the league evolves and all that stuff. We're actually on week 6 of the XFL this week. So this is going to be the article that I have is based on week 5. Right now, everyone is like the Houston Roughnecks are kind of like the team that everyone's kind of like in awe of. I mean, they are undefeated. They're 4-0. They've been playing pretty good football. PJ Walker is just playing this game with ease. I did watch a couple of early games and I've, caught a few highlights, and it's tough because I normally used to be the ESPN guy. Like I had ESPN up all day just to watch different stories and tabloids, but now it's kind of like I catch what I can. And also, before I forget, this show is probably going to be up after it has occurred, but North Carolina is playing Duke today. So, keep your eyes on that matchup. So Houston is first. St. Louis is second at 3-1. They had it as a shocker, but they had the Tampa Bay Vipers at 1-3 third. It was kind of like, I guess them winning the last game that they won kind of made changes in that factor. Fourth was the DC Defenders. Everyone likes the Defenders because they're kind of like the team that you almost want to say you love to hate. Number 5, you have the LA Wildcats with 1-3. 6 is Dallas, the Dallas Renegades. Number 7 is the Seattle Dragons, and number 8 are the New York Guardians. Now, this is the power rankings. These are not solid in their approach, but it is something to kind of look at and factor in when looking at how these teams have or have not played. So they are going to have more matches this week. Let me see if any scores have updated while I'm in mid podcast. It currently looks as though the Houston Roughnecks are ahead of the Seattle Dragons by 3 points with about 7 minutes, a little over 7 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. And at 5, the New York Dallas game will be on. And then on tomorrow, you have St. Louis and DC playing, and then Tampa Bay and LA are going to be playing. So we'll be looking forward to those matchups as well. All right. So as you saw in the title, and I'm gonna talk about a few things, but I'm not gonna article you to death on this story because this one I personally watched. Hold on. Of course, it doesn't want to close. Sorry. Tyson Fury, and I guess I should change the title because Tyson didn't get bodied. It was Wilder who got bodied, but we'll work on that. Deontay Wilder got bodied in this match. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Fury played, he came in ready to box. There are questions that came up about his gloves, whether they had anything in them, trying to figure out if it was how the match was set up. The Wilder story came up of what was it? That his outfit that he wore, it was kind of a way to commemorate Black History Month, but it was 40 pounds heavy and it weighed him down as far as him boxing. I'm going to say it. I feel like all that was bullshit. I personally have never boxed. So let me be clear on that. But in hindsight, if you're preparing for this type of a match, if you weren't prepared, just say, hey, I wasn't prepared. I was not in the presence of the match that I should have been in. They're already looking to talk about the defending bout, which I don't know how that's going to go. I think they're slating the time frame for July, I believe. It might be a little early on that, but I think it's July. They're looking, it's going to be done this year, later on this year. The main thing I'm looking at, or that I'm hoping of, is that he actually doesn't go light on his practicing or his preparation for this match. Because if he does, it's going to be deja vu all over again. Fury got a lot of hits in, and then when it got to the point where where Wilder's management team called off the fight, and I'm going to say this because, like I said, I personally have never boxed, but I also have a little bit of logic in thinking about this. Yes, as an athlete, if you like what you do, you want to give it your all and, participate to the best of your ability. But there's a fine line between doing something and not doing it enough to the point where you're balancing yourself and not being engulfed in what you're doing. I go back to this player as an example. Rest in peace to Pete Maravich. He was one of, if not one, my personal favorite basketball player that I enjoyed watching highlights of growing up. And for him, what became an interesting story was when he felt or kind of saw the urge that basketball just wasn't in him, he kind of didn't see a need of being around, which was kind of weird. He ended up, let's see. So I'm going to briefly talk about Maravich, but after injuries forced his retirement from the game in the fall of 1980, Maravich became a recluse. Recluse for 2 years. Through it all, Maravich said he was searching for life. He tried the practices of yoga and Hinduism, read Trappist monk Thomas Merton's The 7-Story Mountain, and took an interest in the field of ufology, the study of unidentified flying objects. Okay, UFOlogy, I guess it would be called. He also experienced vegetarianism and macrobiotics. Eventually, he became a born-again believer, embracing evangelical Christianity. A few years before his death, Maravich said, "I want to be remembered as a Christian, a person that serves him to the utmost, not as a basketball player." On January 5th, Maravich collapsed and died of a heart failure at age 40 while playing in a pickup basketball game in the gym at First Church with a group that included evangelical author James Dobson. Maravich had flown out from his home in Louisiana to tape a segment for Dobson's radio show that aired later that day. Dobson has said that Maravich's last words, less than a minute before he died, were, "I feel great. I just feel great." An autopsy revealed the cause of death to be a rare congenital effect. He had been born with a missing left coronary artery, a vessel that supplies blood to the muscle fibers of the heart. His right coronary artery was grossly enlarged, and had began compensating for the defect. Maravich died a year after his father's passing and a number of years after his mother, who had committed suicide with a self-inflicted gunshot. Maravich is buried, and they give all that information. So I'm saying all that. I'm giving that story because it's probably like, well, what does that have to do with Deontay Wilder? Well, in Wilder's case, his mindset or his presentation of it is he was going to die in that ring, or he's going to go out as a boxer. And it's like, yes, that's understandable. But in the game of boxing, living to fight another day is a little more important than getting your brains knocked out and you practically never being able to function as a person. It was a picture that went around. Like, I found the picture and I was like, oh, it looks rough. But that's, photographers have a job, and that is to get the money shot, as you like to call it. And that one was definitely a money shot. Like, when he got hit, you saw it from that point after. It was just, the match was over. So that is everything I have for sports. And that is a shocker because normally I always spend like 45 minutes on sports. But yeah, Deontay Wilder did get knocked out by Tyson Fury. And you may as well, you could say it was a knockout without a knockout, but they called the fight off. And Wilder is getting a rematch in that at that event. Going into stuff, I'm going to tell you now, and this is probably going to be a coronavirus-based podcast or a coronavirus-based educational tip, because a lot of people do or don't know certain things, but then there's also everyone taking precautions, which I am 100% in full understanding of. So that part is not where I'm going in a lot of this conversation right now. That being said, GDC is one of the events that is coming up. It is known as the make sure I give you the right terming. Yeah, the Game Developers Choice Awards. Hold on, because usually I know what this one is. But the GDC event, which occurs every year, they are canceling the event due to the coronavirus. A lot of big participants kind of backed out of this event, and they're stating that the event is off. It was initially scheduled to take place this coming weekend, or actually it was coming up next week, from the 16th, between March 16th and 20th. It was announced after more coronavirus cases became public, and I'm gonna be real about what I'm about to say before I go too far. We have never panicked this much about any type of a health thing in ages. And this one is kind of like a confirmation of people not doing their proper, I'm not going to say their due diligence, but their proper research in what is or isn't going on in the world. So I'm gonna, like I said, I'm trying to save it, but I'm gonna talk about it a little. But more than anything, we're just gonna kind of continue with this article. The announcement came, after the coronavirus outbreak. This week, we've already seen Facebook's F8 developer event and the Geneva Motor Show drop off the schedule. And those who were planning on attending the event should have received an email with answers to some of their questions about refunds for passes and hotels booked within the convention's block. Right now, the plan is for many of the presentations that would have been given to be submitted via video and made available for free viewing online. So that means they're probably going to do it in using the YouTube platforms or other platforms. They may use their own website and just kind of make a Twitch-based playlist of these activities. So that event is off. So if you were looking to go to GDC, you will not be going this year. Our next story is why I am going to definitely be brief with this show, because I am going to work on my stuff in learning and getting a feel of cybersecurity, because that is what I'm in school for. I've shared this before as far as being a network and cyber guy. And the reason that I'm big on it now is because of the infamous data breaches that have become public. And the latest one now is involving the company Slick Wraps, which, if a lot of you may or may not be aware of them, they are a company who takes any design or image and kind of puts it into like a wrap based design on your accessories, whether it's your iPhone, iPad, AirPods, Galaxy phones, any devices that I almost want to say they do it for laptops as well, but they do they are able to make like a very nice presentation for that. But
I'm not sure how to help with that.
Okay, well, did not know that I was going to have them talking during that part. But anyway, Slick Wraps, which makes vinyl skins for phones, tablets, and other electronics, announced last week that it suffered a data breach. The announcement came after many customers received an email from Slick Wraps that appeared to be sent by a hacker claiming to have stolen customer data. What's unusual about this case is how the hacker apparently breached Slick Wrap's systems, not by discovering a vulnerability on their own, but by reading a now deleted Medium post from an anonymous fellow hacker. The takeaway is that Slick Wraps may have had comically bad security, leaving it both wide open to breaches like this and flat-footed when it came to responding to any concerns brought to its attention. In its blog post, Slick Wraps said customer data in some of the company's non-production databases was mistakenly made public via an exploit, and that those databases were accessed by an unauthorized party. SlickRap says the accessed information included names, emails, and addresses, but it did not include passwords or personal financial data. If you have ever checked out as a guest, none of your personal information was compromised. The company recommends users change their passwords for their SlickRap account. It also says it will make security improvements moving forward, and they give a little bit more information about this. So I have shared this with other people, and I am sharing this in this story while I'm doing this recording. Be very mindful of passwords you're using. Luckily, I have one of my teachers. I have this term. He's been giving me information that I have not even thought of or realized is important. If you do not have it already or would value your data enough, VPNs and antivirus programs for phones, get it. It'll definitely be something to value down the line. And we even talked about this too, because I got schooled to it. So if I'm getting in trouble for saying this, then oh well, but you do not have to get the big boy bloated antivirus software programs. The ones that I normally recommend are Avast and AVG. Now, the only problem is I know there was a data breach that came up regarding those companies, but I would rather have, for the antivirus purpose, if it doesn't require you to put in any sign-in information, just utilize it for what it's worth, because it is a free antivirus program, as well as the fact that you're not paying another company lots of money per year for something that you're not going to be using. If anything, you're using it just to scan your laptop to make sure you don't have no viruses. And if people don't understand this or don't realize this, Macs can get viruses. iOS devices can get viruses. And I think people don't realize that. One last thing on the cybersecurity bit, and then I'm going to go on to the next topic. There is an event that I just got introduced to that I am going to find a way to either record from it or attend and record something. But DEF CON is a thing. It's called DEF CON. It is a hackers, I guess you can call it a hacker's paradise. Like, they literally are giving you the tips and tricks of the trade as far as how to handle your data. They even did like a testing with one of the writers on how open he was with his data. And I had already been using one of these before, but now I've even tried to introduce it to others. It may seem small. Like, people don't understand why or why not, why it isn't, how valuable it is to have the camera covers on your electronic devices. And the reason why is because as humans, we click on links for things that are bad links and could possibly get your data exposed. So with that occurring, a lot of times you click on this link and this person has access to your computer. And if they go in and remotely access it in a manner to be able to control your camera, they're seeing everything you're doing, everywhere you are, all of your activity. And that's how a lot of people get their data breached or get their accounts compromised. I said one more thing, but I'm going to give this too. Be mindful when getting gas from various facilities. A lot of people will put like the little skimmers on the card reader. And if you're not paying any attention, you're just like, okay, I'm going to swipe my card and go on about my business. But you're also taking a risk, because if you put your card in, once that skimmer has gotten your card information, that's how other transactions show up on your account. So just keep that in mind. I've had people tell me that they've had to make new accounts time and time again, and it's just not worth it. I guess that's the main thing I'm pointing out or looking at more than anything. Before I forget, because this story, I almost lost the story, but I just brought it back. There is this device that has been talked about. Someone shared it with me and I was intrigued by it. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit. They have what's called the gamer bed. It is a gaming area where you can pretty much, it's a bed, it's a table, It's enough space for you to have your desktop, your monitors, and your computer. And there are little sections that you can put your accessories, snacks, things of that nature within it. And they kind of go over like a brief overview about it, and explain how unique it is. This device is $1,048. So if you don't have that kind of money, don't go breaking the bank if it's not worth it. It is called the BODIED Ultimate Gaming Bed. It combines an elevated headboard, desk, snack shelves, table holder, and a bed to ensure you will only have to get up to use the bathroom and shower. The setup turns 8 different products into a cocoon. You wake up from your bed to your desk. Its description reads, "Why is that so complicated? Gaming beds solve this problem." So then they go into, now The Verge is always satirical for a lot of articles that they share. And this is a perfect example of this. What is the mask for? Which I'm still trying to see what mask they're talking about, but maybe I'm missing it. Why doesn't the gamer bed come in a bigger size that might accommodate 2 people? Because it does look like a twin. Why doesn't it come in less aggressive colors? Because it's black and red, which I think is minor, but whatever. What impact might this have on sleep hygiene? I'm not sure. What people sleep. And you have to still change sheets. I don't know. Does the gamer onesie come in my size? Still was a funny part. Is that a tube of lotion next to the bed? And I'm still trying to see where that was, unless they're referring to the head of the bed, but whatever. Is that why did you include this lotion? And my coworker, Shane Gartenberg, thinks this cream is Nivea's all-purpose moisturizing cream for all parts of your body. Is this true? And like I said, they made a little bit of a joke about it, which was cool. But I just kind of all right, somebody's going to buy it. And someone's going to do a review on it, which I would not be surprised by. So just keep that in mind. Before we get into our passes of the week, there won't be any ass of the week this week. Well, you know what? I'm going to do something different because it's me changing the narrative and me doing things a little uncomfortable, but it's no big deal. The asses of the week this week are politicians. I'm going to kind of put this in a two dual layered conversation. It is going to be the voters as well as the politicians, because politicians are putting a lot of money into these campaigns, and it's like, here we are in this huge deficit or whatever, as well as the fact that a lot of people who choose not to vote, which I understand. And let me say this before I go too far into this story. A lot of people are not going to vote because they don't see the need or the urgency to vote. And it doesn't matter to them because either they don't live in the area or they don't think that the president does anything for them. They're valid in that assessment. But on the flip side, it's not just the president. It is the local things that are important, like your mayor, your city council. Like, I personally have not been more eager in wanting to attend a city council event. I just haven't gone because it's not in my schedule, just doesn't allow it. I guess that's kind of like the condensed version of it. But with that being said, I still keep up with what's going on in that facet. Even down to learning about the infamous, because I had never heard of the site until probably a couple of years ago, but 538 is one of my favorite sites, because it literally gives you, now they've kind of spun it a little bit and added some sports and other topics. But when they talk about the actual political pieces or just things that we as people need to work harder on doing, they, in my opinion, I feel like they get it right. So, I'm not sitting here, let's be clear before I go too far. I'm not telling anybody you have to go out and vote. If you choose not to vote, that is your personal choice. I don't judge. I don't nitpick. You still gonna be cool with me regardless. I'm not saying that you don't have an opinion, because you do, But if there's anything that's related to issues or problems within your area, and your main thing you're looking at is, well, I mean, this doesn't affect me as long as my kids are taken care of, then I'm good. Or as long as I'm taken care of, then I'm good. But if it can affect your future, because we as people don't look at it, when we're not here, the world keeps going. And the world is, and at least I won't even say the world, but primarily America is in the craziest place right now, because it's not as comforting as it used to be to kind of say, all right, I'm just going to ride the wave and see how it goes. But now you actually have to really do your part in finding your way to be involved. And I think some of us are involved by just, hey, I'm going to work, I'm going home. I'm going to do, I'm going to vote. But like, I know for me personally, I try to vote every year, because there are local elections and there are local politicians who are really trying to revise or get us to a better position as a country or as a state or as a city. And that's all I'm going to say on that. Like I said, if you don't vote, I don't knock it. Like a friend of mine, I gave him a breakdown of voting where it was on the level of just local elections, as far as like now with the enforcement of driving with a phone. People aren't really going to see the impact of that yet, but I guarantee there's going to be a lot of complaining about it, because no one's really understanding. And it's not even that it's a workaround, but the easiest solution is to get a wired, like what I've personally, and this is a whole different sidebar, but this is a tech talk to bring it up. What I personally feel that technology companies should do, or not even technology, but phone companies should do. Samsung did it. I think Apple can do it. Apple just chooses not to do it. Instead of you making someone buy a device and then have to buy the wireless accessories separate, make it a package deal. If I'm paying almost $1,000, or almost $1,200, $1,300 for a phone, why not give me a pair? I mean, the least you can do is throw in a wireless set of headphones. Now, if you don't want to put AirPods, you don't want to put the Galaxy Buds because they're expensive, that's fine. Make something that's like a default set, because then that way, when people are using these devices, they're not put in a position of, I have to hold this phone up to my face. Or if I'm driving, because I've seen it still to this day here in Virginia, where people are driving and they should not be using their phone. Because when you're on the phone, you're not paying attention to anything. I've noticed it from the texting perspective. I've noticed it from the driving perspective. I've noticed it from the walking perspective. I've seen it in so many different facets that it's just like, we can't be this bad, but we are, because it's all we know. So I know that's like a huge tangent on that, but make your voice heard. That's kind of like my ass of the week message, or ass of the week thought to pay forward to those who are listening to the show. So that's mainly all I have on that. We do have some music we're going to talk about, and I joked on this on Twitter. Someone did like it, which was cool. I thought that was funny. But Jhené Aiko new album just dropped. I need to go back and listen to Jadakiss album, because I forgot. Like, I didn't have time. Meg Thee Stallion's album came out. Meg was in a unique situation with her label and trying to get things squared away with that. So I don't want to say, a lot of people looked at it and thought this was rollout. I don't think it's any of that. I think it was, hey, I'm kind of fulfilling my duty, and I also don't want it to seem limited that I can't make music when I can. So she went ahead and dropped an album. The Meg album isn't too bad. I think I need to listen to it a little more and give it some time. Jhené Aiko's album is pretty cool. It's got a couple of lofi tracks on there, which I was kind of like, okay. Of course, Big Sean is on there. I said it, the statement that I made, I was saying it jokingly, but it's a true, valid statement. If you're dealing with someone that has blended these two albums together somehow, run. That's all I can tell you. There were some other artists who brought out some music. I don't know why I want to say Demi Lovato, but I do recall. I know. Let me check, because I always have to go. I guess this segment may be revamped as being called the Spotify seg, or Spotify sesh. In what we aren't able to find. Bad Bunny's new album dropped. I need to listen to Lil Uzi's album. I heard about that. Yes, Demi Lovato did drop a single, which I briefly listened to. Let's see what else. It was someone else who had a single that I actually listened to that was pretty good, but I can't find it offhand. But yeah, a lot of music came out. So if you have time to listen to it, give it a spin. Aminé's new single, Shimmy, came out. So that's going to likely lead to his rollout album coming soon. Like I mentioned earlier, Jadakiss's album came out. I did listen to Split Decision, which is Party Next Door's new single. And The Weeknd's new album should be coming out soon. So I actually believe The Weeknd's album comes out when we do our next recording. So I'm going to try to give that a bit of a listen when the time arrives. And that's pretty much been it on music. So those are all our stories there. Going into like I said, we're not doing, well, we kind of did without doing an ass of the week, but we're going to do our passes of the week. And our pass of the week, one of them is the Spanish, and shout out to, before I forget, because I am horrible with doing this, shout outs to my twin, Chanel, or Fred, as most of you know her on the podcast. She did give me some input on one of these articles. I think might have been talking about both of them, but the Spanish voice actor for Dragon Ball's Gohan was killed. Luis Alfonso Mendoza. He was killed according to Spanish media. He translated. So let's see. Cartoon Brew, who translated the report from Media Tiempo. Mendoza was allegedly killed during an altercation with a man who was renting living space for Mendoza and his family. The suspect also allegedly killed Mendoza's wife and brother-in-law. Mendoza lived in the Portales Notre district of Mexico City. The suspect later attempted suicide via shooting himself in the head, but survived and is currently in serious condition. The castmates took to Twitter to share condolences, and they did. So I'm going to read the English because they do have it in Spanish, but the English version of it by Mario Castañeda. I said, just a couple of days ago, we laughed with my castaway look, and today you are no longer Luis Alfonso. Somebody explained it to me. Fortunately, you stay in the heart with your laughter and your jokes and the memories of so many years. Yesterday was a sad day. Racia Guerre, who voices the Spanish dub of Krillin, shared her condolences. Until always, my dear friend, Luis Alfonso Mendoza, your light will continue to shine in the sky together with your wife, Lulu, and your talent stays with us forever. DEP. And then there were other people who gave their condolences and their heartfelt thoughts. And he was 55 years old. So condolences to his family or friends and fellow co-workers of Luis Mendoza. The other passing of the week, anyone who knows Konami, anyone who has heard of the term up, down, left, right, up, down, left, right, BA start. It is the well-known Konami code, the infamous cheat code breakdown. The creator of that code, Kazuhisa Hashimoto, has passed. He was a programmer at Konami and created the code during the development of one of Konami's best-known games, Gradius. Anyone who played it will remember the crushing difficulty of this iconic side-scrolling shooter. Even the developers, it turns out, found a bit of a hassle to get through repeatedly for testing purposes. And then they just kind of go over his story. Let's see if I have anything in depth. Hashimoto had a huge contribution on the gaming community. It is, just a tough story to announce or present. The cheat code that I'm talking about is from Contra. It was the well-known code that would give you 30 lives. Some people did find the other code where you could get 60 lives. So that did happen, and we send our condolences to his family as well. The message that I'm going to pass today is going to be pretty simple and pretty brief. Do not get so aggressive about the coronavirus that you're not taking care of yourself properly. And I mean that in the sense of we're all worried about not doing things, and we're so concerned about, getting these masks and all this stuff. If you're not properly doing the convenient things such as hand washing, using sanitizer, at least I know for me working in a hospital, foaming in and out properly, you can contract the flu or any other form of a virus without having to go that far. So that's just something to keep in mind. And also a message that I'll pass is you're going to find days where you are and will give up. The giving up is going to happen, but it's what you do after you give up. Are you going to just bow out and say, you know what, I'm not doing it anymore? Or do you take some time, reflect on it, and then give it another go? A lot of times we naturally are just ready to just give up and just quit. And there are so many people out here who have seen the urge or the need to not quit or give up. So we need to kind of follow that process as well. That's all I got for the show. Not really much to talk about. We will get into some more, possibly some NBA action will transpire. Maybe some NFL news. We might hear where Tom Brady goes. Who knows? But that is everything for this week's show. And as always, I am your host, BT, and this is The Pass, and we're signing out. Peace. Really appreciate all the support, all the listens, all the likes, all the effort that goes into anyone who has provided any form of content for The Pass. We're signing out now, but you definitely don't want to miss what's in store for the upcoming episode. If you are interested in getting more information or becoming a podcaster, you can check out Spreaker.com. And the microphone that you are hearing me use is the Blue Yeti X. I had been using the Yeti for a while. I went back to the Samson Meteor, but now I'm using the Blue Yeti X, which is everything. Trust me. All social medias, The Pass BT. That's THE Pass, as in pass the ball. BT is my initials. And finally, if you are a creator and you want to support a fellow creator, subscribe, like, and comment on The Pass. Until next time, this is your host BT signing out.